Welcome to the video on tips for a successful transition of RSO leadership. My name is Michelle Harvey and I'm the Assistant Director for RSOs Leadership and Non-Traditional Students here at Minnesota State University Mankato. And before we get started, I just want to start with a disclaimer that I know that all RSOs are unique in what they do on campus. If this were a live demonstration, I would be giving you all a stack of Play-Doh, and when it comes out of the container, it's all formed about the same way. I think that represents our policies, our template constitution, how we build a structure for RSOs. But once you as students put your influence on, whether we're talking about your RSO or the metaphor of the Play-Doh, you mold it into something unique. And so the MIT Maverick Involvement Team and our RSO office, we have an outline in place that we're going to share with you on how to transition your RSO, but all our RSOs are unique. And so there are some things that we're going to say that might not make sense for your group. There's going to be some things that do. And then we might not mention a topic that's critical to the mission of your RSO that you need to pay some special attention to. So we're creating the space where that will be discussed, and hopefully you'll identify those things for yourself. So to get started, really the objectives today is we want you to understand the importance of a plan. We want you to think about and learn the steps to a successful plan, and then identify, really leaving here today with some specific ideas for your organization and what you need to do to be successful. So transition, really what that means is we're talking about the planning and implementation of a change of leadership within your RSO. The goal is that your RSO can continue to operate smoothly during and after the transition, and without a plan, it kind of can go willy-nilly and go all over the place, and we know the RSOs transition often. So having a plan that your RSO leadership can follow year to year can help you effectively manage that change, make sure your group has longevity and doesn't have to go inactive. It can minimize the disruptions between leadership. When your leadership is busy transitioning, what are your members doing during that time? And then we want you to meet that goal, whatever that is, while you're going through your transition as well. And then the basic key to this is communication. You need to have your incoming and outgoing RSO leaders to be on the same page. You need your members to know what's going on as well. Make sure that the communication is timely, clear, and targeted to the specific needs. The members don't need to know every detail, but they do need to know that you're in the middle of a transition. As you think about preparing for a transition, let's establish a transition team. Who's responsible? Is that the outgoing leaders that are going to drive most of it, or your incoming leaders going to drive it with questions? It's probably a joint responsibility between both of those groups. How is your advisor involved in the RSO transition? And then who are your key stakeholders? Who want to know how this process is going to happen? Collaborators, people that you work with around campus, members, advisors. Who else for your organization are the critical components that you need to be aware of? And so we've built a transition guide for you, the RSO Officer Transition Guide. If you go to our website, mnsu.edu/RSO resources, or honestly just Google RSO resources, you'll pop up with this. And this is a really good guide that we're going to actually walk through today so you can get a hand on what that looks like. So I popped over here to our website, the Student Organization Resources page. You can see there's a link right here to the RSO Officer Transition Guide, and I actually have it open already for the ease of this presentation. So when you get into it, it talks about transitions, why we have them. We've already talked about that. I think the first thing for you all to talk about as an RSO leadership team or a transition team is what and how do we want to do this? What will work best for us? And so you can use any combination of these suggestions that are here on this page. Some groups do a half day or a full day or even an overnight retreat where they sit down and they really dig into the mission, vision, goals, and that type of thing for their RSO. Other groups do a meeting or a series of meetings. Sometimes that's a regularly scheduled meeting that you are already doing as a group, whether that's weekly or monthly. Sometimes there's a special meeting called for transition. Think about what makes sense with your time and your schedule. And then another option is to think about one-on-one transition meetings. This would be where the president and the incoming and outgoing presidents meet together to talk. Perhaps the treasurers meet together. Maybe this happens at the same time in the same room, or maybe this is just an assignment that you give to your officers. Find a time that works for the two of you outside of this, and here is a deadline on when that should happen. Another tactic that's often used is an outgoing officer transition report. And so this is a document that collects all the information and kind of wraps it up into one place so that you can hand off this information to your incoming replacement. Perhaps this is a folder on Teams, or maybe this is a hard binder with printed out items. Think about the structures that we have here at MNSU to make this more technology driven for you. As we transition out of our InvolveU platform into Mav Central will have places where you can share documents and tag who is eligible to see them. So your treasurer reports could be only visible to the treasurers of your organization, for instance. So those are a couple different ways to go about gathering information and really doing meetings or reports to transition that information one person to another. So what information should you be transitioning? So this next section talks about what type of information or documents should you prepare. And so I encourage you right now to hit pause on this video and take a little bit of time and think through each of these items and ask yourself, do I know where this is? Where is the Constitution for my RSO? Where is a description or a list of the position responsibilities for each officer? Where can I find the mission and values of my organization? What's our history? What were our goals this year and how far did we get? How do I know who our members are? Where is that contact list listed? Do we have phone numbers or email addresses? How do we contact them? Who were the organization leaders, advisor contact information, and so on and so forth. You can see the list continues down here later in the page. So pause now and see about if you know where these documents exist. Welcome back. If you have questions about this, please reach out to the Maverick Involvement team at the RSO office email, which we'll share at the end of this presentation. Another thing to think about as you're gathering information is what is the information that you have out there that you need to update. If you have a bank account off campus, make sure you're updating that information because the people on the bank account are the only ones who can access that money or change account names. Don't let somebody leave town without updating the bank information. The same thing goes for the 901 account access on campus. The people who are on the 901 account are the people who have access to acknowledge where that money goes. So let's make sure that we have your advisor, the president, and the treasurer of your RSO on the 901 account. Event reservations with our scheduling office on campus, have reservations already been made for next year? Are the right people in the contact information? InvolveU, there's a roster and we give access to your manager RSO page on there. We want to make sure that's completely updated. This summer we'll be transitioning away from InvolveU and we'll take the information that is in InvolveU and add it to Mav Central when it goes live later this summer. And then many RSOs have email accounts. And so if you have an RSO email account or you're not sure, contact us so we can make sure we get access to the right people and remove the people who have now graduated. The next section of this document, it includes a list of questions for outgoing officers to take some time and think about. Some of these are designed to pass on the information to the incoming officer so that they have a smooth transition, and some of them also will help you prepare as you're thinking about interviews and ways to talk about this experience and what have you gained as an RSO officer in your experience. So take some time and review those. And then if you're an incoming officer, we also have a list of questions for you as an incoming officer to review. Again, many of these are about what questions do you need to gather from the outgoing officers so that you are prepared and have the information you need. But some of them are also about what are your goals for the RSO and what do you want to gain out of this experience. And then we have another list of items that we want to make sure incoming officers ask outgoing officers for. It's very similar to the list we talked about before, but it also includes social media passwords, login information, and anything else that you need to pass on to keep your RSO functioning. And then once your incoming and your outgoing officers have done that reflection sort of on their own, and maybe they're in the same room doing the reflection at the same time, or maybe they're doing it on their own time, and then you bring them together, whether again this is in a meeting or you have a specific conversation, presidents meet at one time and treasurers meet at another time, you think about how to design that best. But here's a list of items to discuss for incoming and outgoing officers. It is a lengthy list because we wanted to think about all the possible conversations that you might need to have. And so my suggestion would be to review this list ahead of time rather than just start at the top and go through every single question. And maybe that's what you'll do. But review these questions and see which ones are applicable to your group. So the required actions are things that we require from our office to maintain your recognition as an RSO. We are transitioning, so stay tuned for more information specifically. What we do need you to do now is make sure that your current InvolveU roster is up to date and that you've downloaded any information that you want to keep and transfer over. We'll transfer your roster of members, your officers, and your name and description of your RSO. If there's anything else you want, make sure you download that information and save it. There's a section on goals. There's a section on programming and events that your RSO does. There's a section on recruitment for your RSO or marketing, whether that's your RSO or events. A section on membership, officers, funding, connecting with your RSO advisor, as well as our office, the Maverick Involvement Team, and our RSO office. So read through those questions and decide how you want to discuss those as an incoming and an outgoing leadership team. And then we just close with some pro tips. Make sure that you look at your Constitution and your bylaws. Make sure that you are fulfilling all the pieces of your Constitution. That really is your founding document that tells you how to manage your organization. Don't wait till the last minute. Make sure that you start the transition early so that you have plenty of time. And then have some contact information exchange so that you can ask questions if they arise along the way. And as you are a new person coming in, as you go throughout your year and your role as the officer, document things along the way, and that way you'll have an easier time to transition when it's time for you to hand it off. And we'll just close with some resources that are available. So the Maverick Involvement Team is a team of students who really are designed to act as a catalyst to help students get involved on campus, and one of those things is that they support RSOs in managing the RSOs so that you all are strong and recruit members. And so they have an office located here in the Centennial Student Union in the Student Activities Suite. The RSO office email I referenced earlier, rso-office@mnsu.edu. And then our Student Activities office, that's where my office is housed as well. And then we do have the RSO resources online. If you have any questions about transition, please don't hesitate to reach out and talk to me. I'm happy to help, and happy transition.